slippers or socks or booties for the adults in our life. And ever since we did the baby slipper sock pattern, I've had tons of people asking me if there was a way to upsize it. So I put on my thinking cap and I have figured out a way to make customizable adult-sized slipper socks, and here they are. Now, you can make them short, like I have. I've got just to the ankle here, or you can make them really, really tall and roll them down. Again, it's totally customizable, and that will be entirely up to you. The fabric I have used for these slipper socks is very different than the stuff I normally use. This is something called terrific yarn. It is t-shirt material, all balled up into a ball of yarn, and this stuff in particular is 100% polyester. So it's not going to breathe like cotton would, but you can also get t-shirt yarn in 100% cotton if you're concerned about that. The nice thing about the man-made fibers is that you're not going to walk through them as quickly as you normally would in something else, like a regular acrylic yarn or even the crafter cotton yarn. You're going to walk through it, and by that I mean you're going to actually get holes appearing in the bottom of your slipper socks where you put most of the weight of your foot down. So if you use something like the polyester or the Fentex yarn, and this is a specific kind of yarn made entirely for slippers, it's got a lot more strength to it, so you're not going to put holes in it as quickly as you would otherwise. So you can use that. The other thing you can do is make your own t-shirt yarn. Now this takes a little doing, but it's kind of a fun project in and of itself. You can chop up t-shirts in long strips, no more than 2 centimeters wide, and then sew all the little short edges together, ball it up, and poof, you've got a ball of your own yarn made out of t-shirt, which can be really, really pretty and cool, and you can use it to make slipper socks, or rugs, or bags, or bowls, or great big containers like a waste paper basket. It is the coolest stuff. So you might want to try that too. But that's for another tutorial. Today we're going to make these really cute little slipper socks, and this is a ball each. So the t-shirt yarn I got was 130 grams each, and I used 1 ball per slipper, and I am a fairly normal size, ladies size, American size 8. That's the size of my foot, and I made them short. So if you want to make them long, or you're making them for a big foot, you're going to want to have more than 1 ball per slipper sock. So you might want to get 3 or 4 balls of it if it's 130 grams per ball. But I will show you those when we head to the craft table. So without further ado, let's go to the craft table and make ourselves some slipper socks.
I'm using Terrific t-shirt yarn, and I'm going to need 1 ball per booty. So this is a 130 gram ball, and 1 of these equals 1 of these. And I'm a ladies size 8, so if you have slightly larger feet, or if you're a guy and you have bigger feet, or you're making them for a man, you're going to want to have a few of these. So I bought 2 of these balls to make 1 pair for myself. Anything more, you're going to need 3 or 4 balls of this. So that's 130 grams per ball, so that's 260 grams total for me. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle with a large eye, because you're using slightly larger than normal yarn. You're going to need a piece of paper and a pencil, because you need to make notes so that both of your slippers end up looking pretty much exactly like each other. And today I'm using a 5.5 millimeter hook, or an I9, and I'm using a slightly larger hook than I normally do because I'm using slightly thicker yarn. And once you've got all of those things, let's get started. We're going to start our sock booties right at the toe, and because of that, we're going to start with a cinch circle. You take your yarn, and you can make a cinch circle however you're comfortable. If you need help, I have a tutorial on that, and I will post the link in the description box below. We're going to be working in single crochet. Single crochet makes nice, small, tight stitches, and those I find are usually the best for slippers. So once you've got your cinch circle created, we're going to work 6 single crochets into this circle. 1. And remember, when you're working with this funky t-shirt material, it's got some stretch to it. And because of that, you want to be sort of relaxed and a little looser than you might normally be when you're crocheting, because you're going to be putting some tension on those stitches, just like you normally would. And because it's stretchy, you don't want to sort of work all the stretch into the single stitch. You want there to be some stretch left over. And I know that sounds a bit strange, but you'll see, there's my 6 single crochet. There's a bit of stretch to this. Look at this nice little bit of stretch here in this material. And there's also stretch inside the material. So if I roll it apart, you can see there's some stretch there. Looks just like t-shirt, right? So that is going to give your booty this sort of nice elasticity. And so while you're working your sort of stitches with this material, try to keep that in mind, just so you don't sort of pull it all out of or you don't distort it and pull it all out of shape as you're making it. So always count your stitches. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 single crochet. Once you've got your 6, pull your short tail to tighten up your circle. And we're going to be working in the round, so we're just going to keep on going. We're going to continue by increasing. So into row 2, we're going to work 2 single crochet into each stitch all the way around. So we go from a count of 6 to a count of 12. 1, 2, 11, and 12. All right, that's row 2 done, and you'll know you finished row 2. If you count all your stitches, you should have 12. We're still increasing, so row 3 is an increase row. We're going to continue working in the round, so we're not joining our rows with a slip stitch. Into the next stitch, you're going to work 2 single crochet. 1, 2. Into the next stitch, you're going to work 1 single crochet, 1, and you're going to repeat this pattern, 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and 1 single crochet into the next stitch, all the way around for row 3, and that will give you a total of 18 stitches at the end of row 3. 1, 2, and 18. Always take a moment to count. You want to count all your stitches. You should have 18, and that's row 3. We are still increasing. So in row 4, we're going to work 2 single crochet into the next stitch. 1, 2, and 1 single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. 1 here and 1 here. Then 2 into the next stitch, 2 single crochet into this stitch, and then 1 into each of the next 2. 1 and 2. And that's your repeating pattern for row 4. 2, 1, 1. 2, 1, 1. And at the end of row 4, you'll have 24 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 23, and 24. All right, at the end of row 4, you should have 24 stitches all the way around. We are still increasing. Now, if you have a sort of what I consider an average sized lady's foot, so 7, 8, 8.5, even 9, this is the last row of increase we're going to do. So row 5 is going to be the last row of increase. However, if your stitches are really small, or if you're using a really big hook and really thick yarn, what you want to do is fold your circle in half and place it on your foot. This edge and this edge should equal the span across your foot. So if this was my foot and I put it on top of this, it should be the same width as my foot. That's why I figure we need at least one more round of increase. But if you've got a little foot, or you're making these for a little footed person, say somebody who's only 10, 11, or 12, then this might be big enough. But you can always measure the width across the widest part of a foot and then measure from this corner to this corner, and that will give you the right width. You'll know if you need to do one more row or if this is big enough, or perhaps this is too big. So for the rest of us, we're going to work at least one more row of increase. This is row 5. We are increasing from 24 to 30 stitches, and we do that by single crocheting 2 times into the next stitch. 1, 2, and then 1 single crochet into each of the 1, 2, 3 next stitches. 1, 2, 3, and then we repeat. 2 into this stitch, 1, 2, and then 1 into each of the next 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. And you repeat that pattern, 2, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, all the way around for row 5, and at the end of row 5, you'll have 30 stitches. 1, 2, 30. All right, you've reached the end of row 5. You should have 30 stitches all the way around, and just double check by taking your circle and squeezing it in half and trying it on over the edge of your foot. And your toes should fit in here. If they don't, you can make one more row of increase. The next increase row would be 2 stitches into the next stitch. So 2 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 1 into each of the next 4. So 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. That would be your next row of increase for row 6. But for the rest of us who don't need to do any more increasing, now we're just going to single crochet straight. So you're going to start to single crochet in each stitch all the way around so that you get sort of a cone shape happening. It's going to look something like this. So there's your toe, and it's going to go around and around and around and around. And remember, you're working with very sort of stretchy material if you're using the t-shirt material. And when you squish it flat, it gets pretty wide. So don't be, too alarmed. I mean, that needs to go all the way around your foot because your foot is got thickness to it as well. But you're going to start crocheting all the way back straight until you get to the ankle. And I've got a picture I can show you. This is the spot that you want your last row to reach before you start to work your heel. So you want it to come right up your foot until it reaches that ankle point, and then we're going to stop and start the heel. And because I've already made a booty, I know that my toe has 5 rows of increase, and my foot, so the length of my foot part on my slipper, takes me from row 6 to row 19. So my first 5 rows is my toe, and rows 6 to 19 is the bulk of my foot. So I am going to continue single crocheting 1 in each stitch all the way around until I've reached row 19. Now if you have a longer foot, you may need to go to row 20, row 21, row 22 even. Doesn't matter. Just make it as long as you need to so that it gets to that part where your foot meets the ankle across the top. That's where you want to get to. And then we'll pause and we'll make our heels. All right, I have finished my 19th row. And I know that it fits my foot because I tried it on, and that final row comes to about the corner of the top of my heel. So you can make yours a little longer if you want, and it's not going to affect your booty at all. It'll just give you a little more wiggle room in the toes. But I'm using this t-shirt material, and it's really stretchy, so that worked out just fine for me. I also made note of it. So the length of my foot is row 6 through row 19. And make sure you make note of what row you're ending your foot on, so when you go to make your second slipper, it's not going to leave you sort of scratching your head wondering, did I make that 19 rows? Was it at the end of row 21? So mark down what row you ended your foot on, and then we can start the heel. If you made my baby sock booties, this heel is constructed in much the same way. So it's a nice rounded half moon shape. And I love this heel because it means that there's no seam and you're not stepping on a seam every time you take a step. So this rounded heel is very comfortable and it's pretty easy to work. We're going to single crochet into the next 6 stitches. So just single crochet, no increasing, no decreasing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So you've sort of started, you ended your last row, you've added 6 more single crochet. Now you're going to chain 1 and turn your booty. We're going to work back across 7 stitches, so 1 more than we just did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 more, 7. So we went 6, we chained 1, we turned, and we went back 7. You're going to chain 1, turn your work, and here's where it gets exciting. We're going to work these 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now we're going to identify that stitch, so this unworked stitch right next to all of this back and forth we've been doing, this one right here, and we're going to single crochet into it. And that makes 8 for this row. Then we're going to chain 1, turn our work, and now we have 8 stitches to work back across, and then we're going to put 1 in this stitch, so the unmarked stitch at the end of this row, and that will be 9. So work back across those 8. 1, 8. Identify that unworked stitch next to all of your back and forth, and put 1 single crochet into that stitch. That becomes 9. 9 stitches across. Chain 1, turn your work. You're going to work all 9 and then this unworked stitch for 10. 1, 2, 8. There's my 9th stitch. Identify that unworked stitch. 10. Chain 1, turn your work. You've got 10 stitches to work, plus this unworked stitch for 11. 1, 2, there's number 10, it's my last stitch. There's the unworked stitch, that becomes number 11. There we go. Chain 1, turn your work. Now we're going to work all 11 of these stitches and the unworked one over here for 12. 1, 2, 10. There's number 11, and there's my unworked stitch. That becomes number 12. And you'll see me kind of trying to make these little corner stitches a little tighter than my usual ones. That's just so that I can close in the little gaps that may want to form, but they're really not that big. They're not a big deal. And I mean, it's a slipper sock. It's got to have a little bit of airflow. Chain 1, turn your work. We're going to work back across these 12 stitches and work this unworked one for 13. There's my 12th stitch. And the unworked one, that becomes number 13. Chain 1, turn your work, work these 13 stitches and the next unworked one for 14. There's my 13th stitch and my unmarked, unused one, that becomes number 14. Chain 1, turn, and this will be our last heel row. So you're going to work these 14 stitches and then this other unworked one over here for a total of 15, and that is it for the heel. 1, 2, there's my 14th stitch. There's my last unworked stitch there, and that becomes number 15. So your heel should now take up fully half of the stitches back and forth of your entire foot, because remember, all the way around was 30, and now we've worked back and forth, picking up a stitch at the end of each row for a total of 15 stitches now across the back, and that is the heel. And this sort of shows you why you want the length of your foot to be as long as you need it to be, because your heel gives you a little bit of playroom. It does give you like a bit of width through here, but you want to make sure that this part is long enough so that when your heel's on, it doesn't sort of squish your foot. But once that's done, we're going to chain 1 and turn once more. So chain 1, turn your work so that you're working backwards across your foot and everything's kind of on the outside. And we're going to single crochet across these 15 stitches. Here I am at the very last of my 15 stitches of my heel. So there's stitch number 15. And now we're just going to continue all the way around the rest of the foot. So I'm going to identify that next unworked stitch. I'm going to work directly into that one, kind of like I would if I was repeating the heel. But now I'm going to keep going. And if you need to, you can put a marker in this area so that you know where the rest of your ankle, sort of the heel ends and the rest of your booty begins. Or if you can tell, so if you know that by looking at this sort of this line, if you can sort of eyeball that, because you've been doing enough crochet at funny angles that you can see it, you don't have to put in one. But if you've got a safety pin, just mark that little area right there, that stitch we just made, and that'll just tell you that that's the beginning of the upper part of your ankle. So now we're going to continue crocheting all the way around. Okay, I'm coming up on this corner, so you can see I've got 2 unworked stitches left in this row. So I'm going to work each of those nice and normal. There's the last one. And now I want to jump, boom, right to the beginning stitch of that last row. So there's going to be like a little space in here, but it'll be almost unnoticeable because you're going to single crochet directly into that top heel stitch and it pretty much disappears. So you really won't have much in the way of spaces between your stitches in your heel, and I really love this heel formation for that. Now all you have to do is just keep single crocheting all the way around and around and around until your booty is as tall as you want it. If you're like me and you want it to have a little bit better of a fit, let's say it's a little on the wide side, then all you're going to do is just decrease a couple stitches in about the 4th row of your ankle. But you know what? I'm going to show you that when I get to it. So for now, just single crochet around and around, making sure that your heel section is blended in with your ankle section. And you should have an opening just like this, And now your heel and the rest of your sock or slipper have become one again. So all the way around. Try to use the center back of your heel. So if you sort of stretch out your booty, and you can put a marker in there too if you want. This is what I consider sort of my start and end point. It's the middle back of the heel, because that's essentially just a couple stitches off from the start point of my booty. So the new start end point for me is the center back of my heel, because on a finished sock, you don't really pay much attention to the back of your sock. So I'm going to use the back of my heel as sort of my new start and end point. So I'm going to single crochet around for another 3 rows, and then I'm going to do a simple little decrease just to make it a little more form-fitting. And when I get there, I'll show you what I mean. All right, I'm nearing the end of my yarn and the end of my sock booty. So I'm just going to make this hole a little bit smaller, just so that it's a little more fitted to my foot and I don't tend to sort of walk out of it. Because I also know that no matter what I crochet my sock booties out of, there is going to be some stretching over time. That's just sort of what happens when you wear sock booties. So this is my second last row. I am going to single crochet 2 stitches together in the front, so right about here. And I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together in the back. And that's just so I can make it a little bit narrower. Not so much that I can't get my foot into it, but it'll just sort of help with the shaping a little bit. So I'm going to pick up a loop in the stitch next to that one. So I've got all 3 loops on my hook, and that combines those 2 stitches there. Wrap, pull back through all 3 of those loops, and that single crochets 2 stitches together. It's just a nice neat little decrease. Then I'm going to work my way around to the back. I'm going to do the same thing in the spot sort of opposite the front, and then with whatever yarn I've got left, I'm just going to keep single crocheting around and around, and I will knot it off and weave in my ends, and I will have a neat little pair of matching sock booties. So here I am in the middle back. I'm going to repeat that decrease by single crocheting 2 stitches together. There we go. And with the rest of the little yarn that I've got left, I'm going to single crochet all the way around and then fasten off. Alright, I almost got all the way around to the back of my sock, but I've run out of yarn and I don't have any more, so that's not a big deal. I'm just going to slip stitch into the stitch next to my last single crochet, pull the end of my tail through that loop, give it a nice tight tug. Then I'm going to grab my yarn needle and I'll cross the inside of the top of my booty. I'm just going to pick up a few stitches, thread up the rest of my yarn, and pull it through those stitches. And then I'm going to backtrack, so I'm going to skip the last loop I went through, thread up the very tail end of it, get it to stay in there. There we go. And just pull it back through those last couple of stitches. That will keep it from going anywhere. And there you go. 2 somewhat stretchy sock booties.
And that is how you make a pair of slipper socks, adult-sized, or completely customizable for whatever little foot or big foot you may be making them for. That's it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in once again to the Jayda and Stitches show. We will have more stuff showing up on our website soon, and we try to blog fairly regularly there. So if you haven't checked out our website yet, please do so. There are really cool tools, including a US to UK translator stitch chart. There's a good chart on how to translate your crochet hooks, and there's a whole bunch of other little tips and tricks. There's some free patterns, there's a bit of a blog, and there's a new thing we've added called InStitchables. And we are going to do a fun little thing on the website about how to upcycle some of the clothing that you already have lying around your house. So if you haven't checked out our website, do so, because it's a lot of fun, and we're just sort of continuing the crafty party over there. And if you aren't already following us on Facebook, or Instagram, or Google+, or even Etsy, I invite you to check us out at Jayda InStitches there, and join the fun. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you again really, really soon for another tutorial, or a quick tip, or something else. We're never really sure what. But that's it for this week. Thank you so much. Bye!